Unit 4, Lesson 6, File Transfers and Permissions. The Scp command. SCP means Secure Copy. This command lets you securely copy files and directories from a local system to a remote system or vice versa. These files are encrypted so that they won't get easily hacked. The syntax is scp, option, filename.txt, username at destination host, destination folder. Here's an example: scp, animals.txt, username at 10.10.0.2 /remote /directory. Again, the scp command transfers encrypted files from the local computer to the remote computer and vice versa. The Rsync command. Rsync means remote sync. The Rsync-a command backs up or synchronizes files and directories from your local host, the source, to a remote host, the destination. It will copy newer files, won't remove files from the source, and supports compression and encryption. The syntax is rsync option a, your /directory, backup. Another syntax is rsync option a, source, destination. Again, the rsync-a command backs up and saves your information. It's recommended that you back up your Linux often. The Chmod 777 command. Chmod means change mode. Chmod 777 gives read, write, and execute permission to anyone who can access the file or directory. However, this command can be dangerous because giving such access to everyone who can access your system gives them the freedom to change or damage your file. The syntax is Chmod 777 file name. We're going to change the permissions of the Pitbull file so that every user can read, write, and execute it. The command is Chmod 777, and the file is Pitbull. When we list this file, we can see that the permission number shows that everyone can now read, write, and execute the file. The Chmod 766 command. The Chmod 766 command means only the user can read, write, and execute a file. Everyone can read and write, but can't execute it. The syntax is Chmod 766 file name. We're going to change the permissions of the Poodle file so that only the owner can have full access and everyone else can only read and write it. The command is Chmod 766, and the file is Poodle. When we list this file, we can see that the permission number shows that only the owner can now read, write, and execute the file, and that groups and the public can only read and write it. The Chmod 755 command. The Chmod 755 command means that everyone can read and execute the file, but only the owner can write it. The syntax is Chmod 755 file name. We're going to change the permissions of the Yorkie file so that only the owner can write it and everyone else can only read and execute it. The command is Chmod 755, and the file is Yorkie. When we list this file, we can see that the permission number shows that only the owner can write the file, and that everyone else can only read and execute it. When we list all the files within the main directory in greater detail, we can see that the permissions of these files are unique and reflect the commands we executed. The Chown Command. The Chown Command lets you change the user and/or group ownership of a file, directory, or symbolic link. When a file is created, it's usually associated with the owner and group who created that file. This command lets you change its ownership and access. It's best that you use the superuser or sudo command to gain more access. Syntax for changing users is sudo chown option file name. Syntax for changing groups is sudo chown option user group file name. Here are the permission and group details of all the files. We're going to change the user of the Pitbull file from ozboxes to root. The command is sudo chown, the user is root, and the file is pitbull. Remember that the password is ozboxes.org. When we list the files again, we see that the user of this file has changed from ozboxes to root. Now we're going to change the group of the poodle file from ozboxes to root. The command is sudo chown, the user and group is ozboxes:root, and the file is poodle. We can see that the poodle files group has changed from ozboxes to root.